going on, friends? Even today, Harley-Davidson motorcycles give a lot of people anxiety about their reliability. But the truth is, Harley-Davidson motorcycles are really just as reliable as any other motorcycle manufacturer out there. Yes, you do have to maintain them. No, they're not the most expensive and labor-intensive motorcycles out there to keep up with. I would even go as far to say that Harley-Davidson motorcycles are just as reliable as a Honda. I'll admit that Harley-Davidson and Honda are two completely different animals. Honda builds nothing like a Harley-Davidson. But that doesn't mean that a Harley-Davidson isn't just as reliable as the Honda in its own right. A well-taken care of Harley-Davidson can easily last 100,000 miles and beyond. Even a Harley-Davidson that hasn't been shown much love over its life, those bikes can still reach between 50 and 100,000 miles. Where Harley-Davidson gets a bad rap for reliability, this really falls back on us as owners in most cases. Now, don't get me wrong, there's always that one Harley-Davidson motorcycle that's floating around out there in the used pool that's just an absolute lemon, just like anything else, whether it's another motorcycle or even cars. But we as Harley-Davidson owners, we need to remember and keep in mind that maintenance goes well beyond just oil, filter, and tires. Don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Oil and filter changes are absolutely the most basic thing that you've got to do to your Harley-Davidson. You cannot neglect that whatsoever. But the issue lies in the things that get overlooked beyond the oil and filter changes. We're looking beyond the obvious here, besides the oil, filter, tires, brakes, the basic things that are really obvious to you as a rider. A lot of times as riders that do our own maintenance, there's a little thing in the manual that says check and adjust. This is the one thing that everybody seems to glaze over and we don't really pay enough attention to. A perfect example of check and adjust is the clutch. I've been guilty of this myself, and I know some of you probably have as well. We pull the clutch in a few times and call it good. No, that's honestly not good enough. Check and adjust means you're going to back that adjuster off, you're going to open that derby cover, you're going to pull that knurl out of the clutch lever, you're going to look at it, you're going to inspect that cable for any signs of early wear or premature failure that's brewing, you're going to readjust that clutch properly, you're going to lube it with a good cable lube and put it all back together. That is one little simple thing that always gets overlooked. Something that simple is one of those things that's fine until it's not. Then the clutch cable breaks, you're on the side of the road, and people drive by and look over and go, oh look, another broken down Harley-Davidson. Now, the owner's manual is a great place to find all of the maintenance items that you're going to need to perform and at what interval you're going to need to perform them. The problem with the owner's manual is it really doesn't go much further than that. That's where the Harley-Davidson factory service manual comes in. The factory service manual is going to outline every procedure and every tool that you need to perform all of your maintenance items, especially the larger, more in-depth things that you're going to encounter as the miles pile on the bike. Now, honestly, with some of the more major maintenance items, you may not feel comfortable with doing those, you may not want to invest in the tools, and that's okay. Do the smaller ones that you have to do, and then you can always take the bike to an indie shop or take it to a dealer to have some of the more major items performed. I get not everybody wants to pull a whole front fairing off. Let's use a road glide, for example. That's kind of a tough one. Nobody wants to pull all that down, pull the forks off, disassemble the triple tree, repack the bearings, put it all back together, and then adjust that triple tree to Harley-Davidson specification using their procedure. That's not something you have to do often, but it does have to be done. So there's no shame in basically kind of outsourcing that out to a shop or even a dealer service department to have something major like that done. Now imagine buying a used Harley-Davidson and you discover later this bike's got a high-speed wobble, sloppy steering, but at the same time it's still got a good front tire on it, it's got good wheel bearings. What the heck's going on here? This doesn't make that motorcycle unreliable with unsolvable problems. It just means that the steering stem may have not ever been serviced. Even the previous owner may not even have known that it needed to be done because they never looked at the service manual or bothered to check the owner's manual to see what services were required at the amount of miles that they had hit. Another good example that's often overlooked is the swing arm pivot. Now that doesn't mean just looking at the motorcycle, well, the swing arm's still attached, okay, cool, I'm gonna go on down the road. No, you gotta get that bike in the air, you gotta pull those rear shocks off, you gotta put a dial indicator on there, you gotta flex that thing and see how far it moves. This is going to tell you exactly what the conditions of those bushings are. These are really some major service items that are often overlooked when it comes to a Harley. Either A, we didn't know how to do it, B, we didn't want to do it, or we just kind of decided, well, If I have a problem, I'll worry about it then. A complete and proper service when you're really up in the miles on your Harley, this can take somebody that does it all day, every day, a better part of a day to do. If you don't do it all the time, it could take you a whole entire day, maybe 2 days. But it's worth it in the long run to have a motorcycle that's going to be reliable, and it's not going to lead to other problems, which eventually the bike's going to fail on you. So don't glaze over some of the harder, more in-depth maintenance items. Take the check and adjust very seriously. And if you don't want to do it yourself, you don't feel comfortable doing it to yourself, take it to an indie shop or take it to a dealer. But either way, just make sure you get it done before you have a serious issue. So guys, maintenance is well beyond just fluid changes. It's more than just tires and brake pads. A lot of these services, this isn't something that's required every 5,000 miles. We're talking a lot of this stuff is once every 30, 40, 50,000 miles for a lot of these major service items. So that's the good thing. You're not going to have to do this all the time. I know it may sound like a lot. I know it may sound expensive, but there's nothing more expensive than being down for repairs, not being able to ride your motorcycle in the middle of riding season. Now, when it comes to all of this, even though it is Harley-Davidson, it sounds like it costs a lot, but really, it's nothing in comparison to some other manufacturers out there. Go get into service on a Ducati or an Aprilia. That will cost you. But guys, that's all I've got for you this week. Just please don't ignore that check and adjust. Take that seriously and follow the procedure thoroughly. That's going to save you a whole lot of problems down the road. It just takes a few minutes. Yeah, it takes a little extra time, but it beats being on the side of the road. But until next week, guys, you stay safe on the streets, ride smart, dodge those cars, and I'll catch you guys back here next week with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.